and I'm sitting here with Peter Parsekian, the creator of a new product called the Saturday Night Chef that has roughly 95 dining recipes on large cards in an index box. So here with Peter, I'm going to ask him a few questions about his product and why you should be interested in purchasing it. So Peter, my first question is, what is your background?
Well, I've been cooking for about 35 years at home, and I've been cooking from traditional recipe sources, famous cookbooks that provide upscale dinners, magazines, newspapers, from the internet recently. I've been making these kind of complicated, challenging dinners about once a week, but I don't have any formal training, but lots of experience.
So what kind of product is the Saturday Night Chef, and what are its benefits?
Well, the Saturday Night Chef is a accumulation of 90 restaurant quality, elegant dinners that you would set aside for special evening occasions. These are recipes you'd serve to your fussiest guests. They are divided by all the major food categories: beef, pork, ham, lamb, chicken, seafood, pasta, salads, side dishes, barbecue. It's a source for all seasons. The kit comes with 2 acrylic holders that stand the cards off the counter at a comfortable viewing angle. And the cards are in 7x9 stock, printed in 12.5 font size, which means they're easy to read at 3 feet away. So it makes it quite simple to use these cards. And what we offer, for the most part, and this is the summary of our greatest advantage, is that we've cooked through these recipes many, many times. No trial and error is required on the part of a person who uses this recipe kit. All you have to do is make it once, because we've done it many, many times. Trial and error is not required.
So why do you feel you could offer an improvement over the established recipe sources that are already out there?
Well, cookbooks, for example, heavy and cumbersome on the countertop, and they're so specialized that you wind up using just a couple of recipes out of every one $35 cookbook, and then the book goes back on the shelf. They're divided by country, location, types of cooking, like barbecue, for example, or styles, dietary considerations. What we've done is we've created a recipe source with 13 major food categories, so we cover all of those. We're not specialized. The other thing is, too, with cookbooks, I've found sometimes the same recipe is spread out over more than one page, so you're thumbing back and forth looking for ingredients and doing that kind of stuff that makes the meal more complicated. Magazines and newspapers only come out seasonal, and they're not inexpensive. You spend $30 on an issue and you get 6 copies. That's the way it works today for those kinds of upscale magazines. So it's expensive, and you get a couple of main entrees maybe out of every issue, so it takes many years to collect a lot of them. And the big problem with magazines is the fine print. They're constantly straining to see what the next ingredient looks like on a recipe ingredient list. So there's a lot of problems with them, and I found that I've had to cook through those recipes many times to get them just right.
So Peter, recipes are free on the internet, and granted many of these recipes are for quick, easy midweek dinners, and you aren't competing with these, but some of these free recipes are for elegant dinners and come from world famous chefs. So my question is, why would someone pay for your recipes when they can get them free from a renowned chef online?
Well, because what I found is, cooking from chefs online, is that they leave out key methods and styles that they have spent years learning in these recipes presentations on the internet. Honestly, I think celebrity chefs are more interested in selling cookbooks and restaurant space than they are in giving away free recipes on the internet. And I found that without this detailed information that they have and assume you have, you can't make the great meal that they can make. You can make the good meal. You can't make the great meal. Cooking is all about the details. And they leave out a lot of details. Cooking times, utensil selection, ingredients to look for. I mean, what does a good cut of filet mignon look like? Critical to know that kind of information. So I've had to cook through these celebrity chef recipes many times to get them to the point where I felt safe to present them to fussy guests.
Great. So a new recipe source is the use of electronic readers with recipe apps. Hundreds of these recipes can be stored in just one of these readers. So why would your cards be a more attractive alternative?
Recipe readers are expensive, $130 average price, and only one of them is spill-proof, the Demi. And you know they're inflexible. It's hard to add recipes. It's hard to take recipes out. It's hard to add notes. It's difficult to switch between, say, main entrees and side dishes. I think they're inflexible in a lot of respects, but they're expensive.
So you claim one of the secrets of your recipes in producing a great meal is the way they're properly written. Explain to me why your recipes for these kinds of exceptional dinners are better written than the same kinds of recipes from other sources.
Well, the recipes, many of them come from some of the famous sources, the background of the recipe. So I've been trained in the way these recipes are presented, you know, and prepared. The Saturday Night Chef has made these meals many, many, many times, and that's what we offer as a key advantage. You have to make them just once to feel safe in presenting them to the table. We've made them many times. We've taken out all the quirks in the recipe, so all you have to do is make them once. And that's a big advantage, because these are not cheap ingredients, and they take a lot of time. And you don't want to spend that time or that money on recipes if you have to trial and error the end result.
So your cards do not include pictures of the meals, but your pictures give a home cook the visual of that finished meal that can help them decide how to make it. And pictures are found in most traditional sources of recipes. Don't pictures give these sources a very large advantage?
Well, you know, the recipes that we offer usually are, most of them are, almost all of them, are classic recipes. You know, they are classic, like lobster thermidor or braised lamb shanks or steak au poivre. So you don't need a great deal of imagination to know what lamb shakes look like, or you know, maybe steak au poivre or baked ham or roast pork. That takes up a lot of space in a card. We'd rather present the essential information on a card as opposed to crowding it with stories of why recipes work or pictures and this kind of thing. So that's primarily the thought process that went in behind that.
So home cooks over the long run wind up with a great many recipes to choose from if they've been collecting them for many years. So if you've been cooking at home for so long, why would you need another 90 recipes to add in your kitchen?
Most home cooks have been using the same 8 or 9 recipes when they're presented with a task of presenting a great meal to the table. They use 8 or 9 recipes over and over again that they feel safe with. They have quite a few recipes that they make for the weekday meals. In our case, we presented 90 classic recipes, restaurant quality, ready for your fussiest guests. And they're all in one place, in an index box, with the advantages that I've outlined.
Great. So why is it so important to have a single source for all of these kinds of upscale recipes?
Well, again, because you're looking at a situation where it's difficult to decide what you want to make on a Saturday night, for example. And if you can go to one index that lists all the recipes with the times, it saves a lot of anxiety when you're trying to select a decent meal for a Saturday evening. The times are listed so you can prepare side dishes that match up and finish with the main entrees. And you don't have to go to the internet and thumb through a bunch of foreign pages that you're not familiar with. It's all right here on the card. This makes it quite a bit simpler.
So Peter, I've heard that some people consider great cooking an art rather than a science. What is your take on that?
Well, cooking is a science at this level. I mean, for people who aren't trained in culinary schools, you don't want to be in a situation where you're trying to design or create a meal from scratch without any ingredient list or background. Cooking is a science. It's a question of temperature, timing, and ingredient measurements. And that's what it's about. If you don't treat it as a science, you're really creating your own meals. And almost always, they don't turn out as good as a meal that's been designed by somebody with tremendous amount of experience like we have.
Do you feel people will consider your selection of recipes too broad for them to be of a very high quality?
I don't think so. Every recipe has been chosen for this collection based upon its degree of elegance and its prominence in a fancy dinner. So we feel that it's met that criteria. If it's guest ready, restaurant quality, we've made it many times, then we enter it into the box.
Does your index box leave room for personally collected
Yes,
recipes?
sure does. You can put in twice as many recipes that are already there in this box. This is a heavy duty plastic box, by the way.
Right, and it looks like it wouldn't be damaged by liquids or...
No, it's durable. It lasts quite a number of years.
That's great to know, because it's always good to have all of your recipes in one area. It saves a lot of space. And having said that, how come the Saturday Night Chef doesn't include desserts or hors d'oeuvres?
Desserts and hors d'oeuvres can be bought on the outside at reasonable prices and in very good quality. And we take the concentration of the cook and concentrate that on the main entree and the side dishes. The idea of spending a lot of extra time, sometimes hours, preparing a fancy dessert is not in our game plan. We want to concentrate on the quality of that main entree and the side dishes that go with it.
So how is it possible that by themselves, one relatively inexperienced cook can prepare a challenging, extravagant dinner that includes a main entree and, say, a couple of side dishes, all to be completed at the same time?
Well, it's available because we provide the technique to do that in this information booklet. One of the things. The other thing is we have timing of various steps at the very end of the meal, so you know exactly how much time you need to finish the last few steps of a meal, which allows you to start a side dish or finish a side dish. But in this booklet that covers the utensil selections, the key food notes, and the preparation guidelines, very important. If you're doing complex dinners, challenging dinners, you need a guideline like this. Without this, you're up against a lot more complexity. Here, for example, we give you the key ingredients to look for when you're selecting steak, for example, or swordfish, or what type of pasta or sauces to buy. It's in here. This is what I found missing from a lot of sources. But this kind of information, these kinds of details, make the difference between a good meal and a great meal. And it's in here. And the timing you mentioned is in here. There's a page on how to time dishes so they finish together. It's very important. You don't want two sides to finish ahead or behind a main entree. That can be a disaster.
Right, and I have looked through the recommended utensil essentials section from the booklet, and I did notice that by most measures someone would have to invest a large amount of money in order to have all of those recommended supplies at hand. Wouldn't this be cost prohibitive for most people?
Well, most people have about half of the utensils they need anyway, or a third or two-thirds. They have a percentage. You do need to invest in quality utensils for the Saturday Night Chef recipes. There's no question about it. You can't get away with inexpensive material and utensils. It just not going to work. So the answer to that question is, you have to have a certain budget for these things. You have to be able to afford them. And I'm thinking, yes, you have to be able to buy the expensive ingredients. Some of the ingredients aren't inexpensive, lobster, swordfish. But at the same time, for example, you don't have to pay for prime beef. Choice beef is just as good if you know what to look for. Again, it's about how to evaluate the ingredients. But yes, you do have to have a certain budget for this, but you don't do it that often. If you do it once a week, once a month, for most people that's affordable.
So, as we wrap up here with our last question, can you describe to me the type of person that might be interested in buying your product, and what demographic would be most likely to purchase the Saturday Night Chef?
Sure. We're talking about somebody who is mostly from an urban environment that has a budget, like I said, to be able to afford these kinds of utensils you need, and some of the ingredients can be more expensive. Not all of them. Certainly not spending a lot of money on our stuffed peppers, for example. But there has to be a budget for that. Typically, smaller families rather than larger ones, because these meals are designed for 2, 4, 6 people, and they take some time, so you have to be somewhat patient. Men or women can use this product equally. It applies to both of them, and I think that it's not a product designed for either one of them specifically, but both of them. And somebody that is has an interest in cooking and enjoys a good meal occasionally, that likes to go out to a restaurant and enjoy a good meal, but would like to make that meal at home for either economic reasons or for the purposes of enjoying the hobby of cooking.
Great. Well, it was great talking to you, Peter, and thank you for explaining your product, the Saturday Night Chef.
Well, I want to say finally that you don't have to be a great cook or even a good cook to present a world-class dinner to the table. What you need is a recipe for that great meal, but most importantly, one that is properly written, and that's what we've done. The Saturday Night Chef has taken the complexity and anxiety out of upper-level cooking. Enjoy.